streets and alleys. My old friends Jor and Juvina live here. these toy goats, child?
Keep them safe elsewhere. My sister and I made them, and they are the finest in the land. I'm not sure about being finest, but I do love them, everyone.
If you have one in the likeness of Tankrisnir, I will take it.
Wow, thank you. I did it, sis. I saw one, I did it. Sis, I did it. Someone bought a goat.
What about my goat? Where are you going?
You'll be so happy, sis. Someone bought a goat. Sis, this nice stranger bought our goats. I miss you, sis. Especially during you. I hope wherever you are, there are plenty of woolly, fluffy goats to keep you warm.
Sister. This is your sister.
We made the goats together, but the cold took her last winter. I promised her I would continue selling our goats. She said they can bring warmth into the hearts of others. Here, it's yours. I hope it will keep you warm on your travels. Goodbye, nice stranger.
Rest, spirit. The legacy lives on with your sister.
Come, don't be shy. Made with the finest ingredients. I'm giving you such a good deal. People this used. Can I tempt you with something else? Never been used. Brand new. Look at you. You look so powerful now. There isn't something else?
I must take...
imagine.
Read the key. You are quite... Feels stronger already.
Susah deh.
So cleanly through my soul here in Reckenset. He talks of his instruments and asks that I be one. It appears the Nephilim were at battle here long ago. Against a great tempest, some few protected us. We must honor these ancient paths.
Show me.
Cast about this land. Mind and wit. Stack the cairnstones high and wide.
But they keep falling.
You have to let the air and nature's beauty guide you. Shape, balance, expression are key.
Oh, wow. Thank you for showing me how.
Steady your hands and your heart, tiny giant. Goodbye.
I'll be okay on my own, Mama and Papa. Don't worry about me. I'll have an army of snowmen to protect me.
Oh, ouch.
Use safer by making the product secure by default. To be safer online, take your own security checkup at g.co/securitycheckup.
Grand Canyon University, a Christian university, is one of the largest universities in the country. Online students at GCU received over $100 million in scholarships in 2020. See what scholarships you qualify for. Find your purpose at gcu.edu/myoffer.
All right, we're on our way to house.
I don't want to ruin the bag, because I don't want to...
I'm not gonna buy it. Looks pretty cool.
Joe, look behind you.
Do you want a body pillow, Adrian?
No, not me.
Should I get you one?
I don't want to ruin the bag, because I don't want to...
Get me one. Get me one.
Ow! Fuck!
You got a Pikachu, a hat.
Oh, fuck. I'm happy with my purchase, Ken.
What?
Can I request something? Or is that...
Bro, you spent 15 pounds. 15, 1-5. Yes.
Can I request something? Or is that too much?
So, yes, if I can play it.
Can you play Evil Galleon?
Squirrel Angel Thesis, isn't it? Yeah.
It's what I've been obsessed.
Yes.
Can I request something? Or is that too much?
So, yes, if I can play it.
Can you play Evil Galleon?
Squirrel Angel Thesis, isn't it? Yeah.
It's what I've been obsessed with.
I'll give it a go. I'll give it a go. I mean, get a bit more action. What's up? Do you know that? Okay, play Bloody String. Distracts him. I got. Come on.
Black Catcher?
Oh, good. I tried to I've been a pro. I tried to relearn it yesterday, but I couldn't.
Exploring every nook and cranny of a new game can lead to a whole bunch of incredible surprises, and sometimes this includes hidden enemies that 99% of players will simply never encounter. So to celebrate those today, I'm Josh from WhatCulture.com, and these are 9 hidden video game enemies you weren't supposed to see. Number 9, K-Nook Amnesia The Dark Descent. That it makes in the water, with the player being forced to use these visual and audio cues to avoid it at all costs. The whole point of Amnesia is just what's lurking out of sight, with the game even punishing you for staring too intently at any one of the monsters. So an invisible enemy like this is perfect, and proved to be one of the scariest things in the whole game. Of course, the mystery of the creature only led to fans eager to know what it would look like if it could be seen by the human eye. I mean, it clearly has a defined mass, so it must have some kind of shape and appearance, right? Well, concept art actually revealed what the K-Nook would have looked like. And essentially, it's a big, creepy monster dolphin, and that's pretty cool where I come from. Number 8, the Cow King, Diablo 2. The first but not last bovine-related enemy on this list, the Cow King has come to occupy a soft spot in the hearts of many video game fans in the decade since Diablo 2 launched. A secret boss inside a secret level. In order to find the Cow King, you first have to find the secret cow level inside the RPG. This hidden environment does pretty much exactly what it says on the tin. It transports players to a big field full of demonic cows, eager to rip and tear their flesh. Known as hell bovines, these not-so-cuddly creatures will mess your day up plenty, and the king of these can be found as you venture further into the level. Now, the Cow King might be the most well-known hidden enemy on this list today, but back when Diablo 2 first dropped, his existence was a complete surprise to the players who stumbled across him. Number 7, the Smoke Monster, Just Cause 2. Remember Lost? Remember when that was like the biggest pop culture thing around? Well, if you're a video game fan, then you... Number 7, the Smoke Monster, Just Cause 2. Remember Lost? Remember when that was like the biggest pop culture thing around? Well, if you're a video game fan, then you absolutely will, because even if you didn't watch the show, you were inundated with references to it in all the biggest releases from the late 2000s. Just Cause 2, then, is just one of many big-budget games from that era, which boasts a reference to the smash hit TV show. And in this case, it's specifically the series' Smoke Monster that made viewers so intrigued across the earliest seasons. The reference to that creature here, though, is kind of rudimentary, to be kind. In fact, it's almost like the developers just slapped it together in 5 minutes and then forgot all about it. See, at a certain point on the map, you'll find a random enemy that's followed by a billowing trail of smoke who can't be killed with conventional weapons but can be grappled to death. Upon finding him, this dude will just follow you around, with him, his smoke machine, and his cheap Halloween costume haunting you wherever you go. Number 6, the Lord of the Pies, Dragon Age Inquisition. When it came to the Lord of the Pies Easter egg in Dragon Age Inquisition, though, the developers couldn't believe that players had stumbled across it in a mere 2 days. This mysterious pie in a top hat was hidden under the Skyhold environment by designers just as a joke, something which was unintentionally discovered by fans who accidentally glitched out under the map. Sporting a top hat, this giant pie lurks just out of the reach of players. But it begs the question, what's his game? Did he mean us harm? Where did he get such a sick, custom-made top hat? We had a lot of questions after seeing these stills. And while this large beast was never supposed to be seen, the developers responsible did say that other smaller variants were similarly hidden around Skyhold, which is only for the best, really. I mean, it would be a little bit depressing to be Lord of the Pies if you were the only pie around. Number 5, the Bovine Defense Force, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. The whole premise of The Witcher 3 is that you play as a character whose job it is to literally hunt down evil creatures from every corner of the earth. However, one job Monster Hunter Geralt can't take on through regular means is that of the Bovine Defense Force, the name given to a gnarly high-level hidden enemy in the sequel. In order to fight this dangerous, horny chort, you have to be a little bit of a cheeky chappy. See, all RPGs struggle with players finding exploits to get quick access to immense resources, and The Witcher 3 was no different. In fact, in one of the starting areas, White Orchard, savvy fans realized they could go about killing the cows to make some money off their corpses, and then immediately just do it all again when they respawn. As such, this hidden enemy was only included in a patch to deter players from indulging in this exploit. Should you try it, this big guy will spawn and teach you a lesson for cheating. Number 4, the Altered Vent included in a patch to deter players from indulging in this exploit. Should you try it, this big guy will spawn and teach you a lesson for cheating. Number 4, the altered only included in a patch to deter players from indulging in this exploit. Should you try it, this big guy will spawn and teach you a lesson for cheating. Number 4, the altered vending machine. In a patch, fans realize they struggle with players finding exploits to get a high-level hidden enemy in the sequel. In order to fight this dangerous, horny chord, you have to be a little bit of a cheeky chappy. See, all RPGs struggle with players finding exploits to get quick access to immense resources, and The Witcher 3 was no different. In fact, in one of these starting areas, White Orchard, savvy fans realized they could go about killing the cows to make some money off their corpses, and then immediately just do it all again when they respawn. As such, this hidden enemy was only included in a patch to deter players from indulging in this exploit. Should you try it, this big guy will spawn and teach you a lesson for cheating. Number 4, the altered vending machines control. They to be refrigerators, as they are demonic corpses. Anything can be possessed by the villainous hiss, and inanimate objects can twist the very fabric of space and time. This inventive idea thankfully carried through to the game's AWE DLC, which included a genius secret enemy, that being possessed vending machines. These things aren't explicitly marked by the game itself, however finding and killing them rewards players with a good chunk of resources. Not every vending machine is an enemy though, so you're going to have to take a chance on shooting each and every one that you come across just in case. Hilariously, the only indication that they're in the game, apart from some trophies, is a bit of flavor text about them that you can find in a document, leaving it up to the player to put 2 and 2 together. Number 3, a whole bunch of Chalice dungeon monsters. Bloodborne's Chalice dungeons are a criminally underrated part of From Software's Lovecraftian masterpiece. Though they're optional challenge rooms players never have to interact with at all, these
Red Bull gives you wings.
Purdue University Global. Apply now at purdueglobal.edu.
These procedurally generated dungeons house some of the game's weirdest bosses and, of course, incredibly rare enemies that you'll never see if you simply blitz the main campaign. Due to the fact that every tile set is random, it means that players can spend hundreds of hours and never see specific enemies. And as such, there are a bunch of Chalice dungeon exclusives that players might not even know exist. The rarest of all, though, is the Labyrinth Mole, a grotesque little freak that wasn't discovered until 2 years after the game hit consoles. And considering how vile this thing is, it was probably best left undiscovered for so long. Apart from this though, there's so much more to find in these challenge rooms, including variations on regular bosses now spawning as normal enemies, so dive in if you dare. Number 2, the Goomba's Dying Light. You might think that the last place you'd see a Goomba, you know, those little enemies that Mario so often likes to jump on the heads of, is in a mature zombie game, but buddy, you would be a fool if you thought this. That's because the superb zombie open world game Dying Light features a brilliant Easter egg that actually transports you into a grimy apocalyptic version of a classic Mario level. It's not easy to find though, and involves players jumping down a random chimney in a corner of the map. Doing so transports the players to this Mario-style platforming level where they have to make it to the other end without either missing a jump or being hit by the zombies balancing precariously on the blocky environment. Of course, it wouldn't be a zombie Mario level without zombie Goombas to launch off of, and fortunately the level delivers these in droves. Still, this probably isn't the weirdest gaming crossover I've ever seen though, but we might get to that end of the list. Number 1, Lisa PT. I know, it's become a bit of a staple of What Culture Gaming at this point to talk about this subject, but it wouldn't be right to talk about hidden video game enemies you weren't supposed to see without mentioning Lisa, the creepy ghost from PT. Now, obviously, Lisa isn't exactly a hidden enemy of the teaser for the tragically cancelled Silent Hills. I mean, she's the only enemy.
There's surprisingly a lot of stuff you can mess up in Dying Light 2. Some of it is permanent and you kinda end up being stuck with it, while others could easily be avoided. And in this video we're taking a look at some of the biggest mistakes that I have also made regretfully early on, and hopefully after watching this video you won't do the same. As always, make sure you hit that small little subscribe button down below and let's begin. Now, plan ahead your faction allegiance right from the very beginning from your playthroughs. Faction rewards are cumulative and they only work in the territories that these factions control. So if you, for example, went full survivors like how I did and then decided that you kind of want to go ahead with the peacekeepers, you might have stumbled upon the fact that they don't actually add those benefits in each other's territories, only into their own. Which means that if you have a really divided playthrough where you don't even get the chance to get all of the upgrades, you might miss out on a ton of cool stuff. So in the end, it might be a better idea to just fully commit to one single faction so that all of the districts are under their control, but then all of those benefits kind of stack on each other. I've said this before in previous videos, but the peacekeepers in general just seem to provide a lot more better and immediate rewards, not just the crossbow that we already covered, but also siding or saving certain PK characters seems to provide a lot more rewards than survivors ever did, at least in my case. Moving on to number 2, another big mistake that you might be doing, I know I did it, is to get too caught up in loot rarity and not paying enough attention to loot level. Now, loot doesn't always drop at the exact player rank that you currently have, but can fluctuate quite a bit, anywhere between 1 level lower or 3 levels higher than your current rank. Instead of paying too much attention towards the rarity and focusing on those really shiny artifacts, pay close attention to the loot level, especially for weapons. For example, here we have a one-handed axe that's just rare quality. You might be tempted to throw it away maybe, but because it's 2 levels higher, it already competes with even some of the two-handed weapons of artifact quality that are a bit lower level than it. And compared to some of the items in its own class, it completely outshines them to the point that you will definitely want to switch this around when you're leveling up. It's true that you're losing a bit on the durability and mod sockets compared to an artifact, but even rares can have 1 or 2 slots that give you enough repairs and enough mods to just destroy everything as long as they're higher level. Moving on to number 3, do not neglect your HP. In a previous video, I told you how important stamina is in the early stages of the game, and it's still true, but I got a ton of questions at which point should you switch to focusing a bit more on the HP, especially since enemies tend to become a little bit more difficult as you progress in the game. Well, personally, I found that the sweet spot before switching to HP is about 280 to 300 stamina, or about the equivalent of level 7 into stamina. Reason being is because 300 in stamina is what you need for the majority of the higher up places in the game, with maybe a couple of exceptions much later on. And even in those situations, you can totally make do with less stamina as long as you know what you're doing. At that point, I would try to switch and match HP levels with stamina levels until both of them are level 10. And from that point on, it's a matter of preference. Personally, after level 10 and after getting both HP and stamina at level 10, I started again focusing on stamina simply because the paraglider is so damn OP, especially at level 3, and makes traversal so much more fun and much easier because you also have the boost on top. Of course, it's a matter of preference. If you prefer to just tank everything in the game, you can totally go ahead and just focus a bit more on the HP, but again, you will be losing on the possibility to use the paraglider a lot more. Moving on to number 4, not focusing on claiming windmills. This is a pretty early on thing that you should probably already do. Windmills don't just serve as resting places, but also have a few more benefits. Once you unlock one, it will be taken over by the faction that controls that district, but it also populates every single abandoned settlement in that district, and then immediately pops up for you, so you can pretty much see exactly where each point of interest is. Stuff like trading posts, schools for some reason, training camps if you go with the PKs, and so on and so forth. And most of them provide some really good access to vendors. Some of them might even give you something like an artifact quality, and they also can open up some of the best side quests in the game that can be quite rewarding. Like, for example, we've seen some of these as early as Old Villador. Moving on to number 5, claiming a base before looting everything is another another big mistake that I kinda did a couple of times. And if you play with the full HUD on and the tutorials activated, you're probably not going to stumble upon this problem because there's a huge warning right before doing it. But if you played like me, HUD on and the tutorials activated, you're probably not going to stumble upon this problem because there's a huge warning right before doing it. But if you played like me in a more immersive way with minimal HUD elements, you might have skipped on that message. So before claiming any facility like a water tower, power station, a radio antenna, or even enemy camps, make sure you have grabbed all of the loot inside, otherwise it's going to be gone for good. I'm not sure, maybe because people are moving in and yeah, they definitely seem to be a bunch of greedy bastards that will loot everything inside if you don't do it yourself. At number 6, early on in the game you get a pair of binoculars, and if you played games like Horizon Phoenix Rising, you kind of already know where I'm going with this one and how important they are at revealing points of interest on the map. Essentially, since the game already brings you into a ton of tall places, use these moments to just pan your binoculars over the map and just scan everything until there's no scanning lines remaining. You can pretty much use those lines to hone in into a location, and then you will hear a click if you're in the right spot, point at which it's going to zoom even more and then reveal it both on your HUD as well as on your map. And do this when you're in a tall place until there's not a single zoomable line left on the map. Trust me, it's way easier this way, and then you will know exactly where you need to head up next. Moving on to number 7, another huge mistake that I was guilty of until like literally after the middle of the game was to not check vendor resources. You can pretty much get most of the resources in Dying Light 2, including like the scraps, but also the more rare ones, pretty much from most of the vendors in the game, as long as you just scroll down their inventory. And while using the farming methods I've talked about in previous videos is pretty okay, I guess, it's just brain dead and you might get bored of it, point at which you might just want to like buy it outright from a vendor. Moving on to number 8, another thing that you should probably also avoid doing also early on is to not consume raw UV shrooms. Well, in general, that's a good life advice, but early on you have the possibility to use these to kind of battle your infection, which is really annoying because you can barely keep it at bay since it's on such a short cooldown. Now, the game will also give you access to something called a immunity booster, and this is what you will want to actually use instead. Go ahead and use these UV shrooms to craft immunity boosters with the flowers you find on rooftops instead of consuming them raw. UV shrooms also don't fully regenerate your immunity, they're also really inefficient. Meanwhile, a booster will completely replenish it no matter how low it is and no matter how long the timer is, so definitely a much more superior option. And finally, the biggest advice I can give you, and one that personally got me to completely restart a game, is to not rushing to finish the main story. I will not spoil anything here, but as tempting as it might sound to you to like finish the game, there are more drawbacks than not when finishing the main story. For example, the reason you're not seeing the liquidator, which is a question that I got a lot in one of my yesterday's video, is because you already finished the main campaign. He only spawns if you go on that building near the VNC tower before finishing the main story. There's some events that change things, and I will leave it at that. But this is it. Totally let me know down below what other mistakes were you guilty of when you played Dying Light 2 and then realized and corrected them.
I know her.
But it runs.
Is she any kids?
Oh, you're right. Come on, guys, let's get to work. Oh, did I ever...
Our Hillshire Farm craftsmen start the day slow roasting turkey for incredible flavor and double seal every slice for freshness. The results? They speak for themselves. Hillshire Farm. Made right on the farm.
Got my hair, got my hair, got my brains, got my ear, got my heart, got my soul, got my mouth. I'm at the
Oi vittu, se on jo noin paljon, saatana.
Cheers.
No.
Sorry.
I love you, Bushman.
Happy Halloween.